Cameron had just finished moving the last of the boxes. He smiled at his wife and pulled her in for a hug. Julie was the best wife he could ever ask for. She had just graduated from law school in the top of her class with honors, and she had just given birth to their baby boy, Dylan. Cameron had never been as happy as he was at this very moment. This new house was going to make everything easier on the new family. It was closer to his mom as well as Julie's parents. This was good, not only because they both missed their parents while they were away at school, but because little Dylan would be able to grow up with his grandparents around. This is something that made Cameron and Julie both happy. Neither one of them had been so lucky. Yep, this new house was the turning point for them. Cameron was so proud of his first real estate deal. He practically stole the property. The real estate agent said the last owner moved out quickly and was a real weirdo from what he heard. Cameron was sure he had made the right choice to buy. As they fell asleep that night, he knew that now everything was going to be all right. The next morning, Cameron awoke to the smell of breakfast cooking and fresh coffee. He lifted his head and looked around groggily, then rolled over and slammed his face back into the pillow. When he lifted his head from the pillow, he noticed something different about the room, a different color hue. He wiped his eyes and things seemed normal again. That was weird, he thought. He could have sworn the walls were a different shade of blue for just a split second. Weird. Cameron jumped up and headed for the shower. He let the hot water run for a while before he turned on the shower head. While washing his hair, he opened his eye for a split second and saw Julie. He jumped. "Jesus, Julie, you scared the crap out of me," he said. With a blank stare on her face, she said, "One day I will take her from you." He wiped his eyes again and looked at his wife. "Excuse me," he said. "What? Take who from what?" Julie looked at him funny. "I said breakfast is ready. What did you think I said?" "Nothing," he said. "I'll be out in a minute." Weird. He distinctly heard Julie say that she will take her from him one day. Am I crazy? He thought to himself. Nah, just still half asleep, that's all. He came downstairs, ate his breakfast, and began to leave for work. Cameron was backing out of his driveway, picturing his wife saying those words. "I will take her from you one day." Why in the world would he have thought that's what she said? But it was so vivid for him, like she'd actually said it. Hard knocking on the driver window. It's a man, coveralls on, banging on the window. Cameron rolls down the window and screams in frustration at the man's rudeness. "What are you..." Wait, no one there. What the ever-loving hell? He gathered his composure and continued on to his new job. No way he can be flipping out today. This is the job he's been waiting for his whole life. He turns on some music. "The streets will be filled with blood today as we sacrifice all the firstborn to the Prince of Darkness himself. Hail Satan and all his despicable majesty." Cameron choked as he tried to sip his coffee. "And in sports, the Mississippi Mudback sodomized the Alabama Brotherfuckers." "What the fuck?" Cameron exclaimed. He turned the radio up. Static. It wasn't on any station. "I need to just go to work. I'm just stressed, that's all." Cameron slowly clicked the radio knob to off. Work was not exciting, to say the least. Cameron could not erase his wife's blank stare. The radio. Surely I was hearing things. Just stress, that's all. The ride home was hell. Traffic as far as he could see. If he wasn't going crazy before, he certainly would now. He looked to his right, an old woman smiling at him in the car beside him. Looks to the left, a little kid with a Kool-Aid mustache, making a ghoulish grin at him. Okay, creepy. Back to the left. Kool-Aid kid has made an even bigger mess. Something wet in his hands. Is that? It was a human hand, right there in the kid's mouth. The vicious little bastard gnawing the meat off the finger. Cameron rubbed his eyes, looks back at the kid. Just a cupcake. What the fuck? Cameron looks back towards the old lady. She's looking away. Her head turns towards Cameron, and he realizes that she has no eyes. She smiles sharply and mouths something that Cameron could only make out as, "She's mine." A horn blows behind Cameron's car. and he realizes the traffic is finally moving. He hits the gas. His eyes did not deviate from the path in front of him the rest of the ride home. When he pulled into the driveway, he noticed that his wife had hung some decorations already and seemed to have spruced the place up a bit and made it home already. Cameron needed a nice, normal, quiet dinner with Julie. She would make him feel better. She always did. Cameron slid his key into the lock to find that it did not work. Strange. Did Julie already have the locks rekeyed? Was that something that could be done that quick? Cameron knocked on the door. No answer. The garage door was closed, so he couldn't see if Julie's car was in there. After a few hours and 100 phone calls to Julie with no answer, Cameron started to get worried. Maybe she fell asleep. Maybe she's at the neighbor's house. But why would she not answer the phone? Cameron thought to himself. From around the back of the house, Cameron saw what looked like a shadow poke its head around the corner. Then gone. He heard a noise from the inside of the house. Was it a voice? Cameron couldn't tell. He could no longer take the suspense. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around his hand, then crashed through the window of the front door. Cameron reached his hand through the ragged hole in the glass and unlatched the front door. Before he could withdraw a hand, he felt a warm, soft hand touch his. Julie. Cameron jerked his hand back and flung open the door, fully expecting to see Julie, but nothing. There was no one there. Sounds coming from upstairs. Movement. Cameron walked slowly up the stairs, not knowing what to think after the day he'd been having. He made it to their bathroom. The door was closed. Cameron grabbed for the doorknob, and the door opened, just a crack, on its own. Cameron felt cold. Goosebumps were forming on his neck and arms. He pushed the door open to reveal their empty bedroom. Cameron, he heard a voice whisper, as if it was 1 inch from his ear. Julie. Julie? Julie! Where are you? I'm right here in front of you. He heard, but nothing. He covered his hands over his face. I can't see you! Silence. Cameron had enough. He ran for the closet, grabbed a baseball bat. Whoever's here, I'm not scared of you. Stop. Please, Cameron. Don't. Julie. Julie, where are you? Please, Cameron. Stop. He heard, fainter than before, as if someone was actively hurting her. Please. Stop. Cameron. Julie. He heard a baby crying right in front of him. Something shot forward. He swung the bat as hard as he could, back and forth for what seemed like ages. And then he heard wet sputtering. He looked down, and there was Julie, beaten to a bloody pulp. Her brains were scattered on the carpet, the walls, the bed. Cameron collapsed to his knees. On the bed lie his whole reason for living. His son, little Dylan, just 2 months old, head bashed in by some blunt object. What had happened here? Was Cameron having a terrible, demented nightmare? He heard in his head, I told you I would take her from you. Laughing in his head, Cameron began to stand. He looked at Julie, his beautiful love. Her face collapsed with something blunt. Cameron looked at the bat in his hand. It was covered in chunks, gray, slimy, bloody masses. Blood everywhere, all over Cameron, all over everything. Cameron stood up calmly, walked to his gun case, loaded a single bullet into his gun, pointed it towards his temple, and fired. Cold. Then warmth. Blood. He could feel the blood running down his face, and then darkness. He woke up in a hospital bed. Couldn't feel anything. Couldn't see anything. Someone entered the room. He couldn't make out the person's face. A dark person leaned into Cameron's face, and he heard the words, "I told you I would take her from you." A single tear pooled in Cameron's eye. Cameron lived in that hospital bed with a feeding tube, unable to move, but fully aware of his surroundings for the next 20 years. He relived the day he went crazy and murdered his wife and child every day until the day came when he finally passed away.